Does Benoit Saint-Denis have what it takes to get past a veteran like Dustin Poirier? Let's discuss with Dean. What's up, everybody? UFC 299 right around the corner. We've got the co-main event breakdown with Dean Thomas. And of course, I am talking about the fight between number 3 ranked Dustin Poirier and number 12 ranked Benoit Saint-Denis, an absolute killer. And this matchup, I mean, the moment it got announced, Dean, the hairs. I don't have many hairs on the back of my neck. They're tiny. They're little peach fuzzies, but they went.
It's a weird matchup, right? Because this is one of those matchups when it got announced, you almost felt bad for Dustin. You was like, what's he taking this fight for?
Yeah.
Why is he doing this? But you know what? I commend him, not because he's taking this fight, but because he's opening the doors up for young guys. And I do believe that there is a sense of, once you get to a certain point, you get to a certain age, you're like, nah, I'm not fighting these guys. They're young, and I done did all that coming up. And that's unfair to these young guys, right? It's unfair to guys like Saint Denis. And I like the fact that he's opening the door up for Saint Denis and giving him an opportunity. Now, if he wins, we can never question Dustin again, and we can let Dustin sit and do whatever he wants afterwards.
Exactly.
And if he doesn't win, Dustin will know where he's at. He'll say, hey, listen, I shouldn't be ranked number 3 then. This guy should be ranked number 3 because he's there. So I love the fact that this match is happening. I loved it. It almost scared me when Dustin was like, hey, I didn't get the paperwork yet. And he dropped that bomb on the world. But yeah, I was scared, but thank God this is happening. And I can't wait Saturday night for these two guys to step into the octagon.
It was a matchup I did not see coming for a million miles. I would never have predicted that this would be the matchup, but man, is it ever awesome to think about on paper, because on one hand, you've got Benoit Saint-Denis, 5 finishes in a row in the UFC. The only loss he had in the UFC was his UFC debut. It was last minute. It was up at 170. It was Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, who's a killer. I mean, it's sort of like we don't even need to worry about that fight because there were so many funky things about the everything surrounding it, right? Then he just goes on to absolutely rip through the rest of the guys that he faces. Nicholas Stoltz, Gabriel Miranda, Ismael Bonfim, Thiago Moises, Matt Frevola, and the last one, the head kick of Matt Frevola. Oh my gosh. But through that entire rip, there are very few moments to even point to where he's being challenged. It's crazy to see how much of a force Benoit Saint-Denis can be when he gets rolling. To what do you attribute his success so far?
It's got to be a couple of things in terms of, I think the first and foremost is his mindset. Because he has that background in military training, this is nothing for him. So he's always going to go out there and fight his best fight. Now, we oftentimes see guys that are really good in the gym. Then they get out there and it's time to fight. They get a little nervous. They get a little tense. They can never put on their best fight. But when you got a guy like this who's been in war and who's probably jumped out of airplanes, I mean, this guy is a savage and this is nothing for him. So he's going to always go out there and perform his best. He knows how to perform. That's a thing in itself, just knowing how to perform. So that, and then he's just super dangerous. He's super tough and he's super dangerous. Of those names that you listed off, the one that really stands out to me is Thiago Moises. I know Thiago Moises, and Thiago Moises was an absolute stud when I was at American Top Team. He gave everybody fits, and he was a guy that everybody was looking at becoming a world champion. That didn't happen. And the reason why, for the opposite reason, the other effect that happens to guys that are not like Benoit Saint-Denis. They're good, but when it's time to perform, maybe they don't have it all. But Benoit Saint-Denis does, and he proved that against all the guys that he's fought. Dustin is a good performer, but man, he's going up against a major killer. I mean, this guy is a sniper and a killer.
Yeah, your point about Thiago is a really good one, because people need to remember how difficult Thiago made it for Islam, right? When they fought, he gave Islam one of his toughest fights in that division. So I know we can't do MMA math, but like we can a little bit. And that speaks to the level of fighter that Thiago Moises, the level of ability that he has both on the ground and on the feet. And yeah, to watch Benoit Saint-Denis go out there and just absolutely handle him in every regard was wild. But there's no, I mean, there's just no denying. I can't, I can't think of another. I was trying to think of a comp with another like hot rising star that made a jump like Matt Frivola to Dustin Poirier. Can you think of one? Because I
I
can't.
don't know. That's some research that I'd have to really go back and look
Yeah,
into, because I can't think of something like that. And it's crazy because he made that jump, but when he made the jump, nobody thought it was unfair. In fact,
yeah.
he's still the favorite.
Yes, that's what's crazy. He's the favorite in the fight. Thank you so much for saying it. That's what's wild is no one was like, "Oh, this is too soon. We don't want to see this fight. This is no, this is a bad I mean, if anything, they're like, Dustin, this is
Yeah, it's like, Dustin, this is a bad idea, man. Are
yeah.
you sure you want this?
And what's incredible about it is the other thing, if people don't know Benoit Saint-Denis' background in terms of MMA, you keep this in mind. Benoit Saint-Denis' pro debut was February of 2019. Okay. Dustin had just beat Max for the interim title and was about to face Habib for the undisputed title. That, I mean, that just talks to how fast, how quickly Benoit, that was his pro debut, not his UFC debut. His pro debut
Pro debut.
was in 2019. And here the man is taking on the perennial contender, legend, former interim title holder in Dustin Poirier. Dean, how do you feel like this fight is going to play out? Because I think we all imagine it's going to be an absolute dogfight.
Yeah, I think, see, I don't necessarily know it's going to be a dog fight because I think Dustin is too smart to get into a dog fight with him. I think if it's a dog fight, I don't think Dustin can win that.
Yeah,
So I think Dustin is going to be too intelligent and fight a smart enough fight to not allow this to be a dog fight. I think he's going to try to turn this into a war in which he did with Gaethje the first time. That type of war where
mm,
it's on the outside, pick my shots, find him, find his reads, not allow him to get off too soon. So I don't think it's going to be a dogfight. And I think that's the reason why Dustin called for 5 rounds, was so that he could allow himself the time to do
space.
that.
Yeah.
Because if this was 3 rounds, then Dustin would be forced into a dogfight. But now he can say, you know what, you want a dogfight? All right, I'm going to go on defense for 2 rounds and watch you get tired. Then I'm going to put you away in the third. But I think Dustin called for 5 so that he can really
Okay.
measure this and then really calculate how he wants to try to win.
So how do you, I mean, how does Dustin go about doing that? How does he keep a guy off who is so aggressive, so front foot forward with the kicks, with, looking to close the distance and, get the grappling exchanges going? How does Dustin go about keeping Benoit Saint-Denis busy, but off of him long enough to get him tired?
Well, it's just like you said with Cheeto. I don't know if I can allude to that, but it's being defensive minded early. It's it's going out there and saying, all right, now here's one thing, Laura. If you're just on defense and you're not throwing punches back, and I just said block everything I throw at you, it's going to be hard for me to really knock you out. It
Mm-hmm.
really would be like if you're just defending. Now, if you're
Well,
able to
not
use
you. I mean, you could
no, really, no,
pro
really, like
fighter versus pro fighter, not necessarily
right,
Dean
no,
Thomas
really.
versus Losander.
If you know what you're doing defensively, you can block anybody's punch and be okay. Now, when you add footwork into that as
Yeah,
well, when you're not only just absorbing all the shots, but you're also making a miss and you're,
yeah.
kind of playing some cat and mouse with them, you can not overextend yourself, keep yourself in position to see everything coming at you to where you're defensive. And I think that's what he's going to have to do early on. I don't think you're going to see a lot of big shots from Dustin early on. I think you're going to see really good defense from Dustin, him probably just using his jab, his footwork, his lead side stuff a lot, just so he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
get himself out of position, just so he can do a lot of defending early and see what Benoit really has. And then once he figures out what he has, then I think he's going to start turning it on. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is he can't overextend himself early on and get caught.
And on the flip side, what do you feel like Benoit Saint-Denis got to do to get this fight where he wants to be? How does he take control?
Well, I think for him, he's got to really try to batter Dustin up while he's on the defense. And that's, even though you're on defense and you're blocking with your arms and your legs, it still
Those
takes a
body
little bit
kicks.
out of you. Yeah, it still takes a little bit out of you. And I think he's going to really do his job and his due diligence to try to take as much out of Dustin as he possibly can. So even if it does go into the later rounds, Dustin's a little banged up himself. He may not be tired, but he's going to be a little banged up himself.
Southpaw versus Southpaw is always interesting to me because generally speaking, they don't often have a lot of experience fighting other Southpaws. Do you feel like that is going to be much of a factor for the less experienced fighter in Benoit Saint-Denis?
No, I don't think so. And I would normally say it would be, but I don't think so. I think that they understand what this moment is. And this is a big moment for him. Then this is a big moment for France.
Mm,
You got to imagine that those guys in France were like, yo, let's all get behind. Let's call these gyms up. Let's get the best southpaws in France and
yeah.
let's all get to work and let's make sure that we got him covered in sparring. And I know how it is at top team sometimes. Sometimes they're like, hey, can you go southpaw today? And that's not the look. That's not what you want.
Yeah.
Getting a guy to go southpaw for the day or using a guy who's not really giving you a good look. But I'm assuming that, and I'm not saying Dustin didn't get good training, but I'm just saying typically just because you're in a big gym doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a good training
Yep.
partners. But for Benoit Saint-Denis, you have to imagine that he understands the magnitude of this moment and has found the partners that he needs to make this look like it wasn't sparring.
Hmm. Where do you think Benoit Saint-Denis is most dangerous? Do you think on the feet or on the ground?
I think on the feet. I think on the feet. When he started rattling off them kicks to Bonfim, I was like, oh man, this guy. And he's just kind of like recklessly dangerous on the feet. And then that kick
Mhm.
to Matt Frivola, it just came out of nowhere. It just pop, took his head clean off his shoulders.
Yes.
So I think that's the one thing Dustin's going to have to worry about is the kicks. And part of that reason is because Dustin does primarily his striking training with a boxing coach,
Hmm.
right? So that's different than your typical kickboxing coach because a boxing coach is going to have you standing like a boxer,
Hmm.
bouncing like a boxer, holding your hands like a boxer. And that's what got him caught with Justin Gaethje is
Yep.
he blocked that kick like a
Hold.
boxer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he didn't bring both hands up. He had the
Hmm.
one hand up as if almost like trying to shoulder roll and pull back from that kick. If he's training with not to say he doesn't do his kicks, like he does his kicks and he does his blocks and stuff. But if he's training with a traditional kickboxer, he'd be a little bit more prepared for that type of situation. And I think the kicks can give him problems.
I think the kicks could give him problems, but I also, man, I also wonder if the grappling won't potentially give him some issues. Getting him down would be, I mean, because Dustin has tremendous takedown defense, but when you go back and watch, I watched his fight with Oliveira, watched his fight with Chandler, and uh the moments where, you know, he was getting a little bit the clock was getting taken away from him. It was all when he was on his back. Now, granted, it's against Charles Oliveira, so of course he's not wanting to open up and offer up some sort of submission opportunity for Charles. So he's probably, we all know Dustin has he's a black belt. Like it's not like he's lost on the ground. I guess I'm curious about how they match up on the ground because Benoit Saint-Denis has so many submission wins, but none of them are even remotely close to the level of opponent of Dustin Poirier. So I'm kind of excited to see what it looks like when they tangle up on the ground.
Well, that's another thing too. Dustin doesn't have the best takedown defense. And I know you're being generous here, but he does not have the best takedown defense. And the reason why is because Dustin traditionally comes from a jujitsu background.
Hmm.
And at one point in his career, he had faith in his guard. He had faith in his guard, so he wasn't necessarily afraid to go to his back. So it wasn't natural for him to initially start defending takedowns the way he does now.
Yeah.
So when we see him defending takedowns now, because he realized that it was kind of a hole in his game against wrestlers that he was getting taken down. But it's still okay for Dustin to be on his back because Dustin will play guard. That's the
Hmm.
thing is Dustin will play guard. Now, obviously, he didn't want to with Oliveira. He recognized that was a different level. But Dustin will play guard. And I do believe that as Benoit Saint Denis is insistent upon getting the takedown on Dustin, he might get it.
Hmm.
And I'm not to say that Dustin has weak takedown defense, but he just doesn't have world class takedown defense because there was a time when he had faith in his guard and was not afraid to use it.
If it ends up on the ground, though, do you think, I mean, have you seen enough to be able to say, okay, I feel like Dustin can handle him there? Or do you think Benoit Saint-Denis can be the type of buzz saw that we've seen him be?
I think the thing that Dustin's going to have to worry about, and this is something that a lot of guys in Dustin's position have to worry about, is ground and pounded, getting
Mm-hmm.
ground and pounded from off their back. Because what happened was, like I said, Dustin at one point had faith in his guard. A bunch of wrestlers told him it no longer worked. So then he no longer had faith in his guard and said, you know what? I need to start standing up. So then he lost his ability to be effective from his guard, fully effective from his guard.
Mm-hmm.
So if Benoit Saint Denis gets him down and Dustin's guard is not sharp, he could get beaten up from inside the guard because his guard is not what it used to be. Because, he likes to wrestle his way up.
All right. How do you feel like this fight's gonna play out? Like what's your prediction? Not just in terms of the winner, but like what's the fight gonna look like?
I think this fight, my heart and my brain tell me that this fight looks like exactly the way I described it in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin being really defensive early, using movement, getting hit and blasted a few times, and it's going to wake him up, but he's going to be able to deal with it. By the third round, I think we're going to see Benoit Saint Denis get a little frustrated. By the fourth round, I think Dustin takes over. And by the fifth round, Dustin might stop him.
What what's a win here do for Dustin?
It keeps him in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
I think a win here keeps Dustin in the driver's seat, and it allows him to call shots as he has been these last couple of years. Because let's be real here, Dustin calls his own shots. When they asked him to take this fight, he said, "Okay, give me 5 rounds," and they were like, "Okay, sure, no problem, Dustin." And when Dustin said, "Hey, this fight's not happening," what happened? The world went on fire, and then it
Mm-hmm.
happened. Like they were like, "Wait a minute, Dustin, quiet now. We're gonna make this work."
Yeah, he's like, oh, never mind. Never,
Yeah,
my bad.
but if Dustin can win here, it keeps him in the driver's seat, and he can
Mm-hmm.
always continue to say, "Listen, I done beat this guy, that guy. Y'all wanted me to fight the number 12 guy. I was the underdog, went out there and I beat him. Listen, y'all gonna have to come clean. If y'all want me to fight again, keep giving me the opponents that I want. Come clean. Bring Nate Diaz in." And they might have to do it. But if he loses, I think that's a situation where we see Dustin go. Depending on how he loses, if he loses, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a situation where Dustin goes, is it worth it to me anymore?
Yeah. Because he has alluded to that in the past. He has not come out and said, "Oh, I'm if I lose this, I will retire." That's he hasn't said that, but he has definitely alluded to, you know, thoughts of I know I'm, maybe winding things down or yeah, I'm with you. I can imagine a situation where if this ended really badly, where he would really reconsider things because he's got so much going on outside of fighting now that he's got a lot he wants to, save himself for.
Yeah, I mean, he could be the mayor of Lafayette. So
That would be amazing.
yeah, and he might be in the next mayor, so he might as well save some brain cells.
Can you imagine DC going back to Lafayette? DC
And
mayor.
Dustin was the mayor.
I love it. I
Him
love
and
it.
Alan
Well,
Joe Man.
yes, yes. I forgot about him too, for sure, for sure. Um, I cannot wait for this fight. I think this one's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be fascinating to see whether the youthful pure aggression and danger factor or the wisdom of having seen it all over these many, many, many years will allow Dustin to control that fight and, like you say, force it into those deep waters that we just haven't seen Benoit Saint-Denis face yet. So should be
Yeah, I tell
interesting.
you what, man. If Dustin can't get it late though, it could be ugly
It could be,
because there is an ignorance about being youthful. There's a naive. You could be naive, and I think he could be a little naive to the dangers of MMA. Like if you haven't seen it, you just don't know, and I don't think he's really seen it yet.
yeah. There's also kind of what you said earlier in this video. It's almost like because he's faced so much actual danger in life, real life danger, war, things like that, there is sort of this like approach to MMA that's maybe fearless to the point of being reckless, right?
Yeah,
And while there may not be the risk of dying in there, actually, there's definitely the risk of getting laid out. And this is a fight that presents that danger to him for sure.
And I don't know if that even worry. Like, I don't know if that would even worry him. You know, to be honest, like getting
Yeah.
laid out because
I
he's
don't know that it would worry
seen
him
people
either,
die. You know.
but it would be a loss, you
Yeah,
know.
but I think that would probably be the worst part is that loss, like
Yeah.
losing. But for some people, it's being embarrassed, and that's enough. That's enough for me. I don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah. I get it. That's how I always felt more relieved than excited whenever I won. It
Yeah,
was
no
never
doubt.
like, yay, this is so exciting. I was like, thank God I didn't embarrass myself. That was always how it was. Well, Dean, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Miami. Maybe we'll get some rolls in, some work in. When do you get in?
I live here,
Oh my
so
gosh.
I'm no. Well, I mean, I'm probably not going to be down there full time until like Thursday. So
Okay. All right. How far are you? An hour?
I'm an hour, but I'm down in Miami every day.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so,
All right. So we'll be seeing you around.
yeah.
I appreciate your time. We appreciate your thoughts. And Dean and I appreciate you guys. We would appreciate it if you would click like, if you would click subscribe, and if you would check out some of these other videos that we've got for you guys. Great content on this channel. We hope you find a home here, and we will see you at UFC 299.